Let's bring in our panel. Both joining us from Newsmax New York, Liz Peek, columnist for the FiscalTimes, and Ellis Henican, noted TV, radio commentator, and man of many talents. So, Ellis, I know we should be ladies first. Liz, forgive me, but my producers are directing me to Ellis. Ellis, we're calling on you first because Eric Holder didn't just stop with the failure of America. He carved out a fairly huge exception. Take a listen to what he subsequently had to say.
I think raising these issues, coming up with substantive programs as we have in the Department of Justice and other parts of the administration, I think we're in a better place than we were before.
Oh, so the DOJ makes it better. Okay, how does that square with what we've seen in Staten Island and Ferguson, Missouri, even in the president's hometown of Chicago? Are things really better based on DOJ initiatives?
JD, if you're asking me for a simple answer on race, I am sorry, my friend, I do not have one for you. Every single thing on this topic is complex. There's some good news, right? It's great that we're talking about these issues, that we're discussing them more frankly, that we're not hiding them under rocks like we have done for so many generations. And it's bad news that there's certainly a rise in people's willingness to say harsh things on racial topics. We've had these police racial issues that have been popping up, unfortunately, in the last year. And so, you know, some good news, some bad news, and a whole lot of stuff in between. That's the truth.
Fair enough, and we appreciate your encapsulation there of what's going on. But, Liz, we heard Ellis use the term harsh terms. The Attorney General said we were all, quote, cowards about race. What was supposed to be the first post-racial administration in many ways has turned into the most racial administration, has it not?
Yeah, I mean, Ellis also talked about the truth. The truth is that the polling has gotten consistently worse on race relations during the term of President Obama. And my view is he has done very little to really rectify the issues that are at the heart of the divide between the black and white communities, or that have really kept blacks from fully participating in the growth and prosperity of the United States, such as education. Obama made a very good first start on reform education, hired Arne Duncan, but then 2 years in, when the teachers' unions threatened to withhold their endorsement of him in the 2012 election, he basically caved. So we have generations of young African Americans graduating from schools unable to read and write. That, to me, is where disparate impact should come in. And by the way, there are lawsuits now fanning out across the country, basically accusing our schools of having a disparate impact, which is Eric Holder's big tool for justifying racially imbalanced policies. That's where I think we should be focused, and no one is focused there, including the president.
And in fact, Ellis, the Justice Department is moving to almost look for, quote, racial balance in terms of classroom discipline. Are we not stepping on very tenuous ground when we get into quotas for punishment in the classroom?
Well, boy, if Liz is calling for more federal control over education, I want to join that song. I mean, I think that would be a huge help. We have great disparities in this country. Some places kids get terrific education. Some places kids get terrible educations. Mostly it has to do with poverty, although I think race does play a bit of a role in that. Again, JD, you can sloganeer on this topic, but it rarely encapsulates the real truth, which is sadly and naggingly complex.
Well, not sloganeering. Liz mentioned the polls. Let's just go back and take a look at them. Gallup poll, Americans naming race relations as the most important problem in the United States has spiked to 13%. The highest percentage ever recorded by Gallup was 15% right after the Rodney King verdict. So, Liz, as you say, there are polling numbers to back up this concern about race front and center. Final 20 seconds to you, ma'am.
Well, look, last year on the 50th anniversary of Martin Luther King's very famous speech about having a dream, people took a look at where the black community was. They've really made no progress on wealth, income, unemployment, all those measures. So have we failed? I don't know. I mean, I think the country needs to look at the sources of those problems and do something, yes.
Fair enough. Here's what we're going to do. Step aside with a break. We'll bring both our guests back following this. Let's continue our conversation. Both our guests at Newsmax New York, Liz Peek, columnist for the FiscalTimes, and that noted TV, radio commentator, and at times animation voice provider Ellis Henican, who is with us as well. So, Liz, they're not pulling punches when it comes to different opinions on the outreach to Cuba. Does this set up the first fault line in a prospective presidential campaign between a guy like Marco Rubio and Rand Paul?
Oh, I think there have been many fault lines already exposed between those two, and obviously mainly on foreign policy. But of course, this is really personal for Marco Rubio, and you know, Rand Paul's commentary and sort of policies on our international relations are sort of complicated and not particularly mainstream for the Republican Party. I will say that I'll go out on a limb here and say that I actually think that opening relations with Cuba is a perfectly fine idea, and here's why. This is a failed state. It will continue to be a failed state unless it changes and becomes more pro-democratic, more open market, etc. But United States in South America is blamed for Cuba's problems. Let's get that wrapping off the present here, and let's have people look at the policies in Cuba and basically expose the problems of this dictatorship. We should have gotten more in exchange. I think the way Obama did this, the way he did immigration is horrific, and I think it's just unconscionable, but I don't really disagree with the underlying premise.
Well, let's go to Ellis, get his thought on what's going on in Cuba.
Well, boy, I was nodding along with every single thing that Liz said until we got to the overall immigration topic. But on Cuba, my goodness, how can any sane person be against this, right? I understand. Let me put it like this: I understand the politics and the pandering that Marco Rubio needs to do, right? Older Cuban Americans are a strong swing vote in the state of Florida. They give a lot of money in politics and still have a lot of weight. So you know, maybe Marco needs to pander to them.
Well, no,
But
wait a minute, Ellis.
For the
Wait
rest
a minute.
of us.
Wait a minute. Look, I may disagree with Marco on joining the Gang of Eight and stuff, but to say he's, quote, pandering, having lived this issue, that really demeans what is an honest opinion held on his part.
Well, listen, you know what? I got to tell you, I think it's a much more of a political decision in this case. You go talk to young Cuban Americans. They don't agree with this boycott anymore. 55 years, this thing is a manifest failure. The people who are hanging on to it are doing it for reasons of a misty nostalgia and some kind of knee-jerk anti-communism that's 75 and 80 years old, and it's time for all of us to get off of it.
Liz, the fact that time has passed does not mean that the Castro brothers have erased their horrific record of murder and deprivation of human rights. That's not archaic, is it?
Exactly, and it would have been a good negotiating. In other words, we should have had a national debate on this for Obama to sort of pop up out of nowhere and do this. I mean, he's sort of the newest breed of pop-up politician, right? But anyway, it seems to me we should have negotiated various human rights agreements and things like that before agreeing to open up our markets and so forth, things that will be very beneficial to Cuba. That said, we have relations with bad guys all over the world. So the fact that Cuba has become a lightning rod for countries like Venezuela and so forth, we give them cover. And I think that's a mistake, and I think it's time to rectify the mistake.
All right, final 20 seconds to you, Ellis. I won't interrupt. Go ahead.
On Cuba, you say? I mean, listen, it's obvious. It's going to happen. There's going to be some whining about it, but it's so manifestly, obviously, the right thing to do. And I would say about 53 years too late. Okay,
the take from Ellis Henican, the perspective of Liz Peek, lively conversation to you both. Merry Christmas, and America's Forum will continue following this time out here on Newsmax TV.